From the New York City area, welcome to the Badass Counseling Show, where the master badass himself, Sven Erlandson, takes you deep and gives balm for the soul, baby.
Welcome, welcome. It is great to have you here on yet another episode of the Badass Counseling Show. Wherever you might be tuning in from, whether it's Sebastian, Florida, or Merced, California, Sag Harbor on the East Coast, or Gig Harbor or out in Washington, we're delighted to have you here. And of course, all of our international listeners from a whole lot of countries around the world. We have a couple of special treats for you this evening. One, Casey is out of the booth and joining us in studio. Go ahead and say a hello, Casey. How are you this evening?
I'm doing really well. How are you, Sven?
Lovely. Thanks. It's great to have you here. And Rob the Rocket sitting next to me. Rob, what say ye?
Always happy to have a full house.
Indeed.
It's great.
I agree. Even better than those things, we are joined by a very special guest this evening. This is not a counseling episode per se, but it kind of a little bit is. We're joined by a special guest, and Rob is going to tell you in a second, but this special guest and I, as he will share with you, he and I have a counseling relationship, which he freely admits, has done so publicly, so I'm at liberty to mention that. And he is also a superstar, and we love it. And so this is intended to help you see that whatever you are in, you are not the only person. And from the very lowest of the low to the highest of the high, the most successful to the least successful, every one of us is dealing with stuff. And so you're about to hear about that tonight. Rob, who's our guest this evening?
Entirely appropriate introduction, Sven. We have two-time Emmy-Award winner, composer of our podcast theme, and a movie writer, director, and composer, and certainly a friend of the show. It's our friend Trevor Morris.
Trevor, great to have you on the show.
It is great to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Pleasure is completely ours. I want to open by asking you, what the hell have you been up to? Trevor has won 2 Emmys. So we start with that. But I want to hear first and foremost, right away, what recently happened for you. Tell our listeners what the latest for you.
Sure. After 25 or so years in the movie business, but being in the corner of the sandbox, which is composing music, I did do the music for your show, which I quite like that piece.
We love that piece.
I thought it reminds us rock and roll. It's like you, baby.
Amen,
you know?
baby.
Loud and proud. Sort of post-COVID up until now, and I'll tell you the story of how I got there shortly. Mm-hmm. I made the move into the directing chair, more specifically the writer-director chair, and just completed my directorial debut effort, a movie called Butterfly on a Wheel, which we had the joy of celebrating as a premiere in Toronto, in which Sven and Casey were there, which was an amazing moment in my life.
It was an amazing moment in our life, and just a phenomenal movie. And we do look forward to hearing about that in a second. To give our listeners a bit of background, the Emmys. Tell us about that. I know, but tell our listeners, you got a couple Emmys. You've done movies that people have seen before. Olympus Has Fallen, for one. Tell us about a little bit so people understand what the hell we're dealing with. This is not small potatoes, people. Go ahead.
I appreciate that. I'm from Toronto, Canada, and the whole classic story, I just moved to LA without, I had a plan, but without.
What was the plan? I'm going to succeed, goddammit.
I can swear in the show, right? I will fucking make it or die trying, as I often say. The metaphor of putting the TV in the backseat of your car and driving across country. I didn't actually do that, but that's the spirit of it. That was in 2000. My goal was to try to become a film composer at the highest possible level that I could. For those of you who aren't familiar, film music is the underscore that is underneath movies. Most famously, when you watch Star Wars and it says a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, then the music kicks in. That's musical underscore for movies. And that was my dream, was to make it in Hollywood, composing. And I spent every day, 7 days a week, 120 hours a week for 20 years. And I feel like I climbed that mountain pretty high. And in the meantime, I've worked on 50 movies and 700 hours of dramatic television.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Your movie credits include, specifically the ones I know of are Olympus Has Fallen. Give us a couple of the others before we go on the TV side.
Yeah, I mean, some of the earlier days when I was more in a supportive role, we worked on Pirates of the Caribbean 1, 2, and 3.
Hans Zimmer, right?
Hans Zimmer's movie scores. I was in his camp for a while, so we did Black Hawk Down during that time with Ridley Scott, Inception, Batman Begins, those sort of epic level things. And then as I moved into my own career, my own solo career, definitely Gerard Butler, who is the star of many movies, including 300, we collaborated on Olympus Has Fallen and London Has Fallen, which was the sequel to that.
Yep.
Very good collaborations there. And then in television, I kind of ended up in an interesting groove doing a lot of historical dramas. I did one called The Tudors, which is about King Henry VIII.
Loved it.
Very successful, and in my opinion, changed the game in the world of historical drama, because before that, really it was, we called it Men in Tights, which was BBC Masterpiece Theater.
Right.
And the Tudors really turned it on its head. And from the same creator of the Tudors, I worked on his series Vikings for 10 years.
Yes.
Seven seasons. So that is, I know it's close to home for you, Sven, being a Viking. Oh, yeah. So I got to kill a lot of Saxons over that time. And yes, I got 5 Emmy nominations for my work in television and 2 wins.
Unreal. And for those of you who want a visual, and we're going to dive into your movie next year, and then I want to get into the story behind it, or you can do the story first. But for those of you who want a visual to go with Trevor's music, I've recommended it before on the show more than once. This is my personal favorite. Go on YouTube and look up Krakow Symphony, Trevor Morris, and Vikings. Mm-hmm. And this, what it is he composed music for for the show Vikings, and it's performed using the Krakow Orchestra and performed with giant screens behind it. So you're seeing the action of the TV show Vikings, right? My people, the Scandinavians, slaughtering everyone and slaughtering each other when they'd get in fights and so forth. But then they have this fantastic cellist up in front, just sawing on her cello to this extraordinarily intense music. And then the Scandinavian singer,
his name is Einar Selvik.
But he's in a group called whatever the perform called
Ordruna.
Yeah.
Ordruna.
That's it.
So if you search FMF Film Music Festival, FMF Krakow Vikings, Trevor Morris, it's an incredible live film music festival. It's one of our biggest, one of our best, which I've been privileged to be at numerous times.
Fantastic.
When they said, we're going to give you a 100-piece choir and a huge orchestra and this big stage, and we want you to do Vikings, I was like, okay, we gotta, put down the Mozart, and we gotta rock and roll this thing a little bit. So we have this amazing rock and roll cellist, Tina Guo, to my left, and Einar Selvik to my right, singing in Old Norse, and she's rocking the cello like Metallica, and we just took that orchestra and turned it on its head. It was really fun. Fun fact is they record and they on YouTube all their concerts, and of the 10 or 15 years they've been doing it, they've done Lord of the Rings and Fast and the Furious and you name it. My Vikings concert is the #1 watched concert in the history of the venue, which is pretty cool.
At least 150 of those watches are just me. I love that. I watch it during my workouts and shit like that. Okay, so Trevor, tell us recently, I want to look at the movie. I want to hear the story behind the movie, and then I want to go into your depths, the creative process, the hells that you, and I want to look at your past. What led up to all of this? However you want to weave it together. Tell us about Butterfly on a Wheel.
Sure. Butterfly on a Wheel is a story about a gifted musician with OCD, really trying to make his way through the world.
A young kid in school, longing for human connection and to play his music live, which is something he has a hard time doing. So
on paper, that's what the movie's about. What the movie's really about, in my opinion, is someone on the hunt or the journey to discover their authentic self, which is something that I've discovered through working with you, Sven. And it's an exploratory movie about what we put in our own way, or what is in our own way, which could be your past, which is true for a lot of people who listen to this podcast, I'm sure, and know Sven's work, and certainly my work with you. It was clearly a form of self-expression. And it's, I get asked a lot if it's autobiographical. It certainly is somewhat autobiographical. But where it came from, or the origins of the movie, were somewhere around COVID. COVID was sucked for everybody. I get it. I was marching toward a seminal birthday, and I was really having a hard time with it. And then COVID landed, and then I didn't get to celebrate my birthday, and homeschooling, and it was just this perfect storm. And it really took me down. I mean, it really fucking took me to my knees. And the way I describe it is, I've described it many times, is if you've ever jumped into the ocean and caught a wave and you sort of tumble under the water, and when you sort of come out of it, you only have so much breath left and you're not sure where the surface of the water is. If you swim the wrong way, you might not make it. And you sit there and abject fear and panic kicks in, for that split second, and then you find the surface and off you go. COVID set me into that state of fight or flight for a year and a half. And I went deeper and down this sort of rock bottom, I guess, if you want to call it that, place. And I couldn't find my way out of it. At this point, my wife should have left me, but she didn't. My friends did leave me. I can't blame them. It was just this weird, dark, side of the moon part of my life. And I had lost the ability or the perspective to even diagnose it or deal with it. So I just buried myself in the bottom of a bottle. I buried myself in all sorts of things, as I quote in the movie, which is a paraphrase of something that Sven and I talk about, I'm sure listeners of this podcast will understand, is that real change only happens when the pain of staying the same gets bad enough. Yeah. And I got there, and out of that, I decided to go, okay, we got to do something. This is not working. And I started just sort of researching on the web things that had never occurred to me. I encouraged myself to open my mind. And I had been in therapy before, different decades of my life, and no offense to them, it never worked for me. I found the idea of sitting quietly across from someone for 50 minutes with a notepad asking you questions got me fucking nowhere. You were laughing because you are the antithesis of this very thing. But.
So you came in with me and we did 6 hours, but that was much later. So what did you do?
Yeah.
1 hour, you're like, what the fuck am I going to do for 6 hours? So so this wasn't working, and you knew therapy wasn't working. You're in this hell of a spot, and so you tried something new. What'd you do, Trevor?
There are two things that I tried. I was heading to Cape Cod. My wife's mother lives in Cape Cod, and we have a beach house there. So this was really when I was at the worst, and I had discovered you, not sure how, and I bought your book. At the same time, I had discovered ayahuasca, which I knew nothing about. And ayahuasca, for those of you who don't know, is both, when done properly, a ceremony, a ritual, very ancient ritual, and it's an ancient medicine, which is actually a plant and a vine that grow nowhere near each other, that combine to create a hallucinogenic chemicals called DMT.
Yep.
But the ceremony is very much a spiritual thing. And so I decided to reach out to Sven, say, hey man, I'm in trouble. I need help. And he said, okay, what's going on? And then I proceeded to fly from Cape Cod to Connecticut to meet Sven in person. And I think we hung for the whole night. I remember that, but I think our quote unquote session was 5 hours or something of this nature.
Yep.
And that was the beginning of cracking open my pain and starting this healing journey. And then going to ayahuasca, which I did in Costa Rica, was just an amazing, for me and everybody there, spiritual experience.
And so what was the grand takeaway for you from that experience?
Getting rid of that need for validation from other people, getting rid of that belief that I'm not enough as I am, stuff like that. That's the food group.
And somehow then that was the setup for Butterfly on a Wheel.
Mm-hmm. So we were working together. This is now post ayahuasca, and I feel like I'm on a healing path. At least I could see, fucking some kind of sunlight down the road as opposed to darkness. And you, Sven, encouraged me to journal. I hate journaling. You're like, trust me, you got to get it out of you. You got to codify it. You got to write it down. I go, I really don't like this. You're like, well, trust me, you got to do it. So I'm like, fine. And so honestly, this is a true story. How the movie was born is I started, cracked my knuckles with a pencil and a, book. And I said, let's start at the beginning. Let's start with what's good in your life, your earliest memory of good. My earliest memory of good for me was sitting in my grandmother's lap, and she put her arms around me. That's why I mentioned she was a big woman.
Right.
And she would reach around in my body and play Puff the Magic Dragon. That was her favorite.
Beautiful.
And she would sing it to me. And I'm sure in some cosmic way, it was the birth of a composing career, or my moment of falling in love with music.
Love,
and my
sure.
Painting the picture of Puff the Magic Dragon in the lyrics and the Land of Honolulu and all these things. And so that began the first page of the script. Was me describing this journey, this memory of sitting in my grandmother's lap and her playing Puff the Magic Dragon for me. And I don't know why at this point I decided to write it into screenplay format, because I'm a movie guy, I guess. I'd written a screenplay before, it wasn't very good. And so I just sort of, I don't know, man, free associated it. And it came out of me in one big go as a 40-page script, put it away, forgot about it. Fell in love with screenwriting, though, and wrote a whole other movie, a kid's animated movie, if you can believe it, because a happy movie, because when you have young kids, that's all you watch is
happy movies.
I've seen Finding Nemo 150,000 fucking times.
And it never gets old. No,
it never gets old. And then I kind of dusted off. It was called Butterfly on a Wheel then. It still is. And I dusted it off, and but there's something kind of in here. And more importantly than is there a movie in here, there was a catharsis in there that I felt I hadn't quite got to the end of yet. And at this time I met my producing partners, Jim and Susan, who read the script and said, I want to direct it because I have this weird propensity to run toward hard things, surely to prove to somebody somewhere that I'm good enough, but serves me well in strange ways. And they said, listen, we read a lot of scripts. This script is good, but it's not great. And the reason it's not great is because you're not going personal enough with it.
That's it.
So they're like, if you want this to resonate, you have to bare your soul. You got to go all the way, which was a really big ask for me.
And we're going to find out exactly what that ask is. That way you had to go in and get personal and reveal yourself right after this short break.
You've heard Sven talk a lot about his book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup. And that's because Sven hears from his followers a lot about how much the book has helped them. If you're not sure how to handle the issues getting in the way of a better life, you're not alone. And you have a lot of choices. But thousands of readers will tell you that this is a great place to start, by yourself and at your own pace. So go to badasscounseling.com and order There's a Hole in My Love Cup, and you'll have Sven right there with you as you forge your best future. It's totally badass. So get started today.
This show provides soul counseling intended to entertain and inform, and is not medical advice. Now, back to the badass.
We are back with two-time Emmy Award winner and most recently writer, producer, and composer of Hollywood movies, Trevor Morris. Trevor. So back to where we left off then. Go ahead.
Where were we? We were at the script stage. So I decided to direct the movie as another form of self-expression and growing and learning. And at the time also my composing career was in a bit of a lull there was a writer's strike in Hollywood for anyone who follows the Hollywood world, which is full shutdown. And I'm a creative person. I need to create things. If I don't, I really go. I know myself. I have enough self-awareness to know what makes me work. And sitting around is not good at all, especially the state of mind I was at this stage of my life.
Yep.
So I thought, well, I'll direct it. You know, I've always thought about directing. It's a short film. And my producers were like, listen, we're totally on board, but the script is not ready. The script needs to be much more personal, much more, you got to go all the way down that road, which was a, fucking heavy ask.
And so what did you put in there that became this very personal thing? And just for the record, folks, you guys have heard me say on the show before, and I quote in the book, the great American, the very first American scholar, psychologist to ever teach a college course in psychology, William James, taught at Harvard. And one of his greatest quotes is, that which is most personal is most universal. So when you're hearing that song by Springsteen or Beyonce or whoever it may be that just resonates deep inside of you, very often those are the songs where that artist has bared their soul the very most, whether it's a sculpture or a painting or a song or a dance piece. It's because that which is most personal it resonates with the most of us. It's most universal. So what did you have to go into to make that script more powerful as the other producers saw it, Trevor?
Well, first of all, what you said is absolutely proven to be true for me. I think you recognize it when you hear songs. Everyone has said, I feel like they wrote that song just for me. That's the artist bearing their soul. I just never been the author of that moment before. I mean, compositionally I have, but there's no, it's strings and brass and I have things to hide behind.
Right.
These are words and people acting up these words.
So what did you put in there? You got us under suspense. What did you put in there that was you?
Well, first of all, was the absolutely autobiographical moment of me and my grandmother. That is a core memory from my life. And then really exploring this theme of not being enough, not being good enough as I am. I'm not the lead character's name is Jason per se, but everything he does is very personal to me and how I think and how I thought at that time. And it was really just, his and my longing for human connection with a woman, to have that connection in your life, connection through your music. And, the things that get in the way of, us doing those things. It's actually where the name of the movie came from, as a poem from 1736 by Alexander Pope on, Who Breaks the Wings of the Butterfly. And the metaphor is using this ginormous amount of force to accomplish something relatively small or simple or seemingly insignificant. And if there's a better metaphor for the human condition, I've never heard it. This is exactly what we do. We take something as simple as asking someone out. We turn it into something, this huge Herculean hurdle for ourselves. And we do this, at least I feel like human beings do this. I wanted to explore that, which is what our character does. And ultimately, he does get in his own way and he fucks it up. He goes on a healing journey. It's not ayahuasca, but it's a metaphor. And then in the end, he overcomes his own self to find his true authentic voice. And it sort of starts him on what I call in the movie, we're left with the feeling of possibility. It's not all the sunny and beautiful and with a bow on it. It's like he did the work.
There's hope.
There's some hope. Yep. There's some sunlight.
It's just so well written. And you have to understand, this is a short film. This is not a feature length. This is a short film, which is even more difficult to write. As a nonfiction writer who's written a bestseller and written 8, 9 books, whatever, nonfiction is easy compared to screenplay writing. I wouldn't even attempt screenplay writing. That is a true high-level art form. And to tell a significant story with multiple layers in the compressed short format, those of you who are writers know what the hell I'm talking about. If you're not a writer, I can't even tell you how extraordinarily difficult that is. But the line that I felt was really autobiographical for me is he has this girl, Sorrel, over. And she was interested in him. She found him by his music, which was a cool scene. And then she comes in and they say hello, and he's making her, which I know is autobiographical for you, he's cooking for her, and it's a duck a la Jason. And we get to watch that cooking scene like the Godfather movies and Goodfellas. You see these Italians cooking, except this is a Canadian cooking, putting it in there. It's part of the texture of the movie. And they're enjoying this meal together. And she's sort of prodding him. Hey, everyone talks in school. How come you never perform? How come you never perform in front of other people? It's only for you for your brother, whatever. She doesn't bring that up, but you don't perform in front of, come on, music man. Well, how come you never perform? And you can see him becoming agitated, and he's tapping the table, and it's stirring him up. And it's not that he's angry at her per se. It's just a button has been pushed. His own shit inside had been triggered. And you can see him basically sweating. And then in this really powerful moment, frothing at the mouth, he says, "There's nothing wrong with me." And he's not talking to her. He's talking to all those voices from the past. There's nothing wrong with me. And I tell you what, if there was one line that was the refrain of my life in my 12-year suicidal depression, that was it. There's nothing fucking wrong with me. Now, he doesn't swear in the movie, but there's nothing wrong with me. Yeah. And it took in my suicidal depression, I had to come to terms with that belief that no matter what those voices were inside around me, that inside of me, there was this like divine spark that believed there wasn't anything wrong with me. And to give myself permission to believe in that quiet, still small voice inside of me that said, no, I don't care what you say. There isn't anything wrong with me. And so that was extraordinary. Was that autobiographical for you? Was that an extra piece that you added for the character? Talk to me about that particular aspect, because it was so powerful, Trevor.
Yeah, a bit of both. It was a very layered moment that is meant to be both the emotional peak of the movie, and of course, his rock bottom. Here's this kid, all he wants is to find a girl, finds the girl, there she is, he's cooking dinner, it's going great. The audience is going, look, this is going great.
Right.
All you got to do is not fuck it up, right?
Like his brother says, don't fuck it up.
Don't fuck it up, right? And then she unknowingly starts putting her finger on his vagus nerve, on his pain points, on his shit, as you would say, from his past. And he starts to regress. His OCD comes to the surface. We show through a series of flashbacks, basically a little kid afraid, stage fright, people laughing at him, making fun of him, the shit that goes into the wet cement of your soul. And so the whole idea was, when he does break out of this, what I call like the feeling of having malaria, is to blurt out, there's nothing wrong with me. And she never asked him that question, because he, like you said, he's not talking to her. Mm-hmm. He's talking to everybody who ever fucked with him, everybody who ever told me he was no good, everybody he told me never amount to anything.
Yep.
So that is the cathartic moment of my healing journey, was a chance to say that through the visual art of cinema in a way that I knew would land the hardest.
And that then raises the question that takes us in. This is the point of entree for us as listeners and for my folks struggling with their own stuff. You've brought up now twice the notion of catharsis, the idea of healing something, getting something out of me, healing something from the past, right? And that cathartic moment and so forth. But for you personally, what was the catharsis in your life healing that then becomes sort of the seeds of the movie? What was the catharsis of? I mean, you were at the peak of your career. You've got this major birthday coming. You had written movies for Hans Zimmer. We had worked with Gerard Butler. You had Emmy Awards. You had success. Hollywood of all places. If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere in your business. And so to all of us on the outside, where it's like, what fucking problems could he have? But something was torturing your soul from the past. What precisely was it that needed to heal from the past, Trevor?
It's funny, because the question that precedes this is this year and a half of darkness. And like you said, my career was great. I have a career that's the envy of many people. I have a beautiful wife. I have beautiful children, financially stable. I mean, I check every single fucking box you could check. And I would ask myself, what is wrong with you? Almost like talking to myself in the third person, because I'm going, and then I used to start to feel guilty about feeling bad. And then this weird other spiral happens. And the question that I couldn't get away from is, what is wrong with you? Like,
that you can't enjoy all the good stuff. I've got everything, but I'm still fucking miserable.
And you're even a bigger piece of shit because you have all this that some people can't even afford food. So like, what is wrong with me or you, depending if I'm talking to myself?
Right.
It ultimately became the answer that there is nothing wrong with me. And the way that I got there in the movie is a singular moment in my life. It was a year and a half of slow and steady healing. We're all born perfect. And that we become who we become through other people's voices, a lot being pushed down our throat or pushed into our psyche. And that there is nothing wrong with me.
What do you recall what your message was? Was it I'm a loser, or geez, I'm so stupid, or I'm too skinny, I'm too fat, I'm too whatever? What was your message in running on an endless loop in your head?
That floods a myriad of emotions. Something like, to me, that I always felt different in not a good way. You know, why am I not like everybody else? Something like that, some version of that, where everyone else seemed to be doing all the right things. It could say the right things. It could play the right sports. And why can't I be like everybody else? This desire to conform to what everyone else, what I thought looked like happy lives, when in fact I was just built differently. You know, I got diagnosed with ADHD last year at this stage of my life. To realize now how my brain is wired and how I react to things. Still learning, you know. And when I was a kid in the 70s, if you didn't fit into the box, you were labeled different.
Right.
I was lucky. I was labeled special, which is a nicer way of saying different.
Well, now in some realms back then, being labeled special was worse.
Yeah.
You know, you were special. We have much more respect for it now, but so different with a bad connotation.
Over
so
here
something was wrong with you.
Yeah, here's, you know, the valedictorian of high school and the quarterback and the prom queen. Like, these are the people with good grades and good looks and all these things that we idolize in society at large. That was somehow put on the pedestal in the scholastic system of what you should be. And, you know, you can watch any TV show about this even today, and the freaks and the geeks and the people who don't conform to that box are different, you know, and are marginalized.
And see, this is one of the things for me. I grew up in a very blue collar suburb of the Twin Cities, very like back in the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, easily the most blue collar, Fridley. But in our school, all of the jocks were in sport or were in theater or concert choir or band. Yeah, no lie. I was a wrestling captain my senior, one of the wrestling captains. Both of us wrestling captains were in choir. I was, played football, ended up playing Division I football. Plus I was in calculus. The football captain was, calc student. The following year, the football captain and the wrestling captain was in choir. I played in orchestra. I was in theater. Wow. Yeah, we were weird. We were a weird school, but I get those distinctions. And I was labeled different, but because of the home I grew up in, different was allowed and different was encouraged. My mom was a bit of a freak and my dad was very tolerant, and patient. I want to ask you though, deep down, Trevor, did that kid, that 12, 14, 17-year-old kid, did he believe that he was fucked, that he was a piece of shit?
I would say so. Yeah, I would say so. And I think I had an unhealthy amount of my self-worth wrapped up in music. My life was very unbalanced at the time. And so it was a really destabilizing moment.
If you believe you're a piece of shit, how does somebody like that go after an insane dream, like moving from one country to the next and across the country? Toronto to Los Angeles is a fucking drive, folks. All right. Thousands of miles. And so if you believe you're a piece of shit, wouldn't you just believe, it'll never happen? I'm like, how did you even have the courage, the balls to do that? Where did that even come from? That would even be possible?
It is a story as old as time. I'm nothing new to this, which is, I'll show you. Right.
So it was a fuck you.
Yeah, fuck you to the world. And this is after I thought there's a point in time from 12 till probably 18 when I'd fallen out of love with music completely. I think I played in bands on the weekends to try to get laid, but in a serious way.
Hey, if you're going to be a musician, at least fucking enjoy the perks of it. Jesus. I mean, Isn't that why everybody becomes a musician?
I mean, I was studying Rachmaninoff yesterday, and now I'm playing bass guitar, covering 80s. It's not exactly the same level of musicianship, but...
No, but the perks are much better than when you're playing Rachmaninoff. Although maybe not. I don't know.
I think also, if you listen to the story of... I'm a big chef cook guy. Listen to stories of like Wolfgang Puck, and his father is a piece of shit and all that stuff. There's a lot that I'm going to show you. Also built into that is, what? I'm not scholastically super strong, but this I'm good at. Mm-hmm. I can cook. I can fix cars. I can play music. There's the immigrant mentality, Ellis Island mentality has always come through with nothing but what's on your back. And I will put my kids through college because that is the answer to a better life.
Right.
And it was for a long time. But that mentality still proliferates our world even today. I have kids maybe going through college. I debate this. Mm-hmm. But if you didn't have the grades, which I didn't, I now know as part of my ADHD, I got A's and F's in school. That's just how I'm built. But I was good at this. I was good at music. I don't know why. The gift, as they call it, which I love that term, because if you really think what a gift is, if I give you $20 and I gifted you $20, you didn't deserve it more than Casey did, but you'd be like, cool, thanks,
Right.
But what you do with the $20 is what matters. And that's what I did, is I was given this gift that I didn't deserve more than you did, but whoever gives up the gifts, thank you. But I kind of said, okay, well, I'm going to grab onto this with both hands because I'm pretty good at it. And maybe I can outwork everybody. And maybe I'll be half good at it. And I'll show you mentality for sure. It's a fuck you to somebody somewhere, if not society at large, and this is now that I have an insight into the human condition I've learned through you, our work together, my healing, I see this all over the place. People who are successful, who I admire. And you can just see it if you know what to look for, because I'm looking at myself in a way. You can see that you just said to yourself, I'm going to fucking climb Mount Everest and everyone else can go fuck themselves and try to stop me. That fire in their belly served them well.
Well, indeed it did. And tragically that those are, my clients, and tragically they get the success and they realize I'm still fucking miserable because that core belief that I'm a piece of shit or I'm a loser or you'll never amount to anything is still there. That the healing is still necessary. So whether you do it at 40 or 20 or 50 or 30 or 75, with some of my clients, it's still there. That's how powerful these messages are. What was the fundamental price that you paid for all that success, working 120 hours a week, working at the very pinnacle, Hans Zimmer, and then your own career, which was is masterful, and now you're launching a whole new career within the film industry. What has been the single biggest thing that has cost you personally, relationally, familial-wise, career-wise? What is it? What has been the price of not being healed yet, particularly the piece up to you are being healed? What really was the price?
It's got to be, without a doubt, for me, human connection. Human connection is lost or not made or wasted, or stepping on people on the way up, or certainly not being nice to people on the way up, because everyone was an obstacle to me. Everyone was a competitor to me. Everyone was a threat to me. And it leaves kind of this awake behind you, but not a lot of human connection. I feel alone.
And you and I, we spend quite a bit of time on, when you used to be, social anxiety. You could entertain an audience of thousands of people, but put you in a room at a cocktail party of 25 people, and what would happen? I
mean, take this movie. I went from being a composer, which is a solitary act, to being a director. And if for those of you who have ever seen it behind the scenes, when the director calls cut, what do you think happens? Every single person in the crew and the cast looks at you, So that was a big, hurdle for me to get over. And I did this, and I'm commanding the set, and I'm like, actually kind of fell in love with it. And the night of the wrap party, you put me in a restaurant with the same people I was just on set with, and I could barely speak. I could barely find anything to talk about.
Wow.
And I found myself in the corner. I actually snuck out early. And everyone said, where did he go? Did he have some other party to go to? The social anxiety, this is the same fucking people I was on set with earlier that day, not new people that I didn't know.
Right.
And I'm the man in that moment. And I had a hard time finding something to talk about.
Wow. Isn't that interesting?
Still recently. So I'm still got some work to do there.
Right. And that's great because now we have something for our next session. This notion that I'm still not okay the way I am, fear that I might not be accepted, those sorts of things. I want to turn to KC and Rob for their thoughts, their questions, insights. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, I'm glad to know that it wasn't me, Trevor.
What are you talking about?
That he ran out of the party for, or that he didn't talk to me. I thought it was something I said.
Well, if you had showered that morning, KC, then it would have been different.
No, you have this thread woven into the movie, this thread of genius and madness and them sort of coexisting. And I'm wondering if you think the genius in you could have existed without the madness. Can all that greatness that is your music and keeps you so focused and hyper-focused on things exist without you having ADHD, without you having OCD?
Without the character having OCD, which technically isn't madness. That's the pejorative term, but Go ahead, Trevor.
It's a good question. And we'll never know, of course. But I will tell you one thing. Even in the wake of people I left in my path or the people I didn't connect with or that vacuum behind me, strange as it may seem, I'm still grateful for all of it because it got me here today. I'm friends with you guys. I have this great life. I have a great wife. I have great kids. I've grown, but I find this sense of gratitude even for the bad shit. But I've come to realize that what makes me, I'm falling in love with. It took me my whole life to do this. And part of this is being fucking crazy at times and being mad and being obsessive and being people that can't figure me out and me not. Now I don't feel bad about it anymore because I've sort of accepted myself. But for a long time, you feel very like you want to just run and hide because no one gets you. And that kind of polarity is a difficult way to live. But, no, I don't, to answer your question, I don't think you can separate it. And I don't think I want to. The only reason to separate it was because it made you different. And what made you different made you feel like you should be changing or you're wrong. And that's just not how it is. But it took me my entire life to figure that out.
And this is shadow work. This is the integration. This is real Carl Jung shit, who integration of the dark side, the things that people told you is either bad in life or bad about you. And you believe it, you'll believe it until eventually you say, well, fuck that noise. I like this. This is me. If you just take me for who I am or go fuck yourself and get out of my life. It's that I'm integrating all aspects of me rather than saying this part is bad, this part is good. I'm just going to do the good and pretend like the bad's not there or push it away rather than saying fuck it. It's all part of who I am. Now, that doesn't give me carte blanche to hurt people. That's not what I'm saying. But these very things. So for me, growing up in a Swedish American Minnesotan son of a clergyman home, Swedish Americans generally are stoic, quiet people, and I'm this loud, bombastic person. Why? I wanted to get attention. And, just doing anything, attention whore, and vain and all of these things and swearing and all this attention. Look at me, right? And then, you get thrown out of ministry a few times because I was a Lutheran pastor myself. And then it's like, well, fuck this shit. I am who I am. Fuck you. Like I'm the fucking problem. You guys are hemorrhaging fucking members out of your fucking churches. And the passionate guy is the problem. The passionate guy, really? You remember who Martin Luther is? Anyway, back to the story. So then, KC or Rob, go ahead.
I just want to say one more thing. I love that you just said that you learned to fall in love with all the parts of yourself. Because that is definitely a theme that we have running through this show. Like we have people that come on and complain that they don't like themselves because they're sensitive or kind, and people think that they themselves are a pushover. They use these terms in a way to hate themselves. And I think one of the things that working with Sven teaches them and has taught me even about myself is I've learned to love those parts of me that I used to hate and think were weaknesses. And I now realize that those are sort of my superpowers. The things that I used to think were my maladies are in fact things that make me different and make me special. And so I love that you said that. And I have one more question. You had something in the movie I thought was intentional, and it was like the main character is out in the streets and all the noises that are around him become super, super loud. And
you turned up the fucking volume on that. That was brilliant.
And he's super focused on that. And I just want you to talk a little bit about why you added that to the movie and what the thoughts were and what you were trying to portray to us.
That's very much me. In the movie, he starts off by just in his apartment in his relatively safe space. And then he's just trying to get out the door to get to school, and he has to face the street. And the reason the sound was so hyped or hyperized or certainly pumped up was it was subjective. In other words, it's not actually what the streetcar sounds like. It's what it sounds like to him. It's not the sound of the bike passing by, how it sounds in real life. It's how it sounds to him, which is me. I have a very strong sense of hearing, and I hear my way through the world primarily. And I've always struggled with, being at a restaurant and I'm talking to my wife, and in the left side of the restaurant, I can hear the music coming out of this, the speaker in the ceiling or whatever. And to the right of me, someone's on their phone. They're playing a song for their friend, and I have two pieces of music going at the same time. And I'm trying to talk to my wife, and the ambient noise of the room, and I get completely overwhelmed. And she'll look at me and she's like, "You're not even paying attention to me." And now she's mad at me because she thinks that I'm just tuning her out. I'm just coping with the fact that I hear everything all the time, all at once. And it's just one of those things that, again, is a superpower when used correctly. But I find it very difficult at times just to sort of make it through certain environments. And I've always known that about me. And I wanted to put that on display in the movie to be subjectively shown the way this guy struggles with hearing the world. That's very much me. And I know I'm not alone in this, but it's definitely one of those things that just makes me. Hearing two pieces of music at once almost stops me in my tracks. I have a hard time functioning. So like even with kids, one kid's got one thing playing in one room, one's got in the other room. And I'm like, shut your doors, otherwise I'm going to literally lose my mind.
I think for me, it was an incredible moment because I could relate to it, because when I become super anxious, that's sort of how the world feels to me. Like everything gets louder and more intense. And I know that Sven talks about his mom also struggling with that when she had severe anxiety. And so,
well, and raising six kids, and she would turn off. Normally we had National Public Radio playing classical music, Minnesota Public Radio, from sunrise to sundown. But there were times if the talking part was on and she's in the kitchen, and she would say, "I need to turn off the radio. The radio goes off in the house now." And she's like, "Okay, Mom's she needs rest." Yeah. Good.
Casey, back to what you just said earlier that you touched on is this idea of being sensitive, which I've been labeled my whole life as well. It's still not even out of me. I still go play golf with my buddies who are bullshitters, and and once in a while someone will say something, they can see it in my face. They go, "Why are you being so fucking sensitive?" It's still part of my life. I still have an extra
God.
that.
Well, and yeah, and see, this is is the notion that you're actually the problem, not these men who have cut themselves off from their feelings and trying to be all bravado tough guy bullshit. It's like, oh yeah, you're a man, you're a walking fucking cliche. At least Trevor has the courage to be both strong and sensitive, because that's just human. We all are. Tell me, and I'd say to one of those guys, yeah, tell me you're not fucking sensitive when your fucking dog of 13 years passes away. Fuck you. Your child's going in for her fourth fucking surgery at age 9, and you're a tough guy. Fuck you. Rob, any thoughts, questions?
Yeah, a question occurred to me. It may have occurred to some of our listeners. I understand the creative impulse, Trevor, that resulted in your film, Butterfly on a Wheel. But how did you finance it? And is it important to you to recoup that investment, or was just the creation of the film an end to itself that you're very satisfied with?
And are there plans for the film along with that?
Well, that would be part of recouping.
Right.
Yeah, all good questions. I was self-financed, and the reason for it was I wanted to be able to do it the way I wanted to do it. And as soon as you get someone else's money, then they have a voice in how it gets executed, and I didn't want that. So to that end, and I'm lucky enough, fortunate, I hate the word lucky, fortunate enough to be in a position to do that. The ROI on the movie was never going to be money on a short level. It was going to be exposure. And at this point, I had committed to the idea of trying to build a directing career. And you can't tell someone you can direct. You direct something, and then you're a director. And then at that point, it stands on its own 2 feet. And chances are someone's going to watch it without you in the room and make a decision whether, oh, this kid can direct or he can't, or she can do it or she can't. And so I knew that this needed to be a standalone representation visually, musically. Went to Abbey Road to record the music, used the best lenses in the world that I could direct. Not as a fuck you, I'll show you, but just to be, this is how I see this, how I see that world. And the idea was to turn it into a feature, which I might still do, but mostly to get attention so that my next script, which I'm writing, will, you know, when I'm like, I need, you know, a lot more money to make a bigger scope project. As a first-time filmmaker, it's very, very difficult if you've never done anything before. And I built my entire life, for those who don't know, I'm self-taught in everything: music, composing, conducting the orchestra, conducting live, which is its own animal, directing. I taught myself acting, editing.
You're a fucking animal.
It's just, it's not bravado. It's just, I don't learn very well any other way. So, I had to do it my way, and I had to do it in a way that would express my point of view.
Wow.
And then I knew, like I've always done, if no one likes it, totally cool. I left it all on the field, no problem. I mean that with all sincerity. If people go, I don't like that at all, not a problem. But what I would hate myself is if I didn't go all the way. I say, you know, I really wanted to do it with these lenses. Or I wish I had a bit more time, a bit more money. I was never going to do that. So
love
that decision I made going in.
Mm-hmm. Your extraordinarily successful career before that put you in this enviable position to be able to produce this proof of concept. So good for you.
Well, thank you. And honestly, I couldn't have made this movie 5 years ago because I was still full of enough pain that it would never have come out of me, at least not like this. So it was the right thing at the right time in my life.
So you're saying Sven should get a credit?
He is credited.
I am credited.
See?
He is. Sure, he's in the credits. It's true.
I am. I like the quote that you just said, Trevor. You don't tell someone you can direct, you direct something. And I love that because it requires the brass balls. Because if you say, oh, I can direct someone, you direct something, you're trying to tell someone, give me a chance to direct. You're asking them to believe in you. And what you're saying is, no, you don't tell someone you direct something. In other words, show me that you believe in you. Put your nuts on the line. Let's see how it looks. Let's see how it turns out. And then I'll decide if I want to put my nuts on the line. Except for you, it was, I know I got to put myself out there. I got to prove myself because no one's going to give me a shot if I just say I can. And I love the audacity of that. And that just, fuck it. I got to prove myself to myself. Yes, the industry demands it if I want to make something out of this. But I love that passionate sort of, I'm going to go out and prove myself. KC, you have a little bit of history of that in the fashion industry.
Just a little bit, not as much as Trevor.
Well, you built a giant company in Manhattan. I think you had 2,500 employees globally at your peak. And so, yeah, and completely self-taught.
Completely self-taught. And I'm still teaching myself things.
And grew up under your mother's sewing machine in the bridal shop in the Bronx.
Yep.
How about that? Self-taught.
You know, I love it. And I want to say thank you to that, Sven. But the one thing, you know, I'm have a bit of a humble Canadian thing in me, but at the same time, I've always had, I don't know where or how or why, and I don't care to know how or why, but I've always had the brass balls to go, I'm just going to fucking do it. I'm just going to swing hard, swing big. I've always done this since I was a kid when it comes to music and that whole thing. And I think that even when I have fallen on my face or I have failed, that it's true that even if you swung and failed, you're better than the other 90% of the people who never stepped up to the plate. You know what I mean?
Yep. So
if I'm going to swing, I'm going to swing big. And if I fall flat on my face, I did it my way. I hate asking for permission. I fucking hate it.
Right.
And I'd rather to go, I'm just going to do it. And then, it's not so much a fuck you, I'm going to go do it. I'm just doing it. That's it.
I need
no
to
discussion.
for me. I need to
for me.
I wanna sort of put a bow on all of this. We're coming to the end of our time here. But before I do, I want to just tell folks they can go to butterflythefilm.com and check out all the clips from behind the scenes and still photos from behind the scenes and so forth. Where can we find you online? Where can we find the film online, social media, and so forth? Where can we find you, Trevor?
Yeah, I'm at Trevor Morris Official on all social platforms. And most of those have a link to Linktree, which has basically all of me.
Okay.
So if you go to Instagram, if that's where I mostly live, at Trevor Morris Official, and there's a Linktree, it will take you to my webpage, trevormorris.com, the landing page for the movie Butterfly the Film, which is basically some imagery, moving images, my director's statement, what the story is about, the behind the scenes, and me conducting the orchestra at Abbey Road, which is actually kind of a cool thing.
Cool.
So at Trevor Morris Official is where you find me pretty much everywhere. I do have a public email address for people who want to reach out. It's on my website. It's always been there.
Excellent.
Which I encourage. And at the moment, we're just premiered the movie. It's going into the film festival circuit. And if there are gods in this world,
the film gods,
we're hoping to get it into Oscar contention in this live action short category. That was always the goal. I vote on the Oscars, so I know what those movies kind of look like and feel like. Not that I'm chasing the idol, but it's good for a lot of reasons and certainly validation. So Butterfly the Film is how you get to a sneak peek at it. It's not fully available yet, but when it is, trust me, I will be shouting from the mountaintop.
And as Casey and I can both attest, having seen the movie, that's an absolute Oscar winner. So powerful.
Just incredible.
Thank you.
And I want to put a bow on this for some of our listeners.
Yeah.
And that is that you can be weird and quote unquote overly sensitive and too sensitive and have OCD and have ADHD and be anxious and be an incredible human being that can create things like this gentleman created. And so just love yourself a little bit, because we love you and we think you're incredible.
We really do. And so I want to, before we go out of the show, to music by the immortal Trevor Morris, I want to just read a tiny little poem for you. When my first child was born, my son, I painted this in all different colors and fonts and so forth on the wall above his crib. And it is a poem by the poet Digby Wolfe, excuse me. And the poem is called Kids Who Are Different.
Mm-hmm.
Here's to the kids who are different. The kids who don't always get A's. The kids who have ears twice the size of their peers and noses that go on for days. Here's to the kids who are different. The kids they call crazy or dumb. The kids who don't fit with the guts and the grit, who dance to a different drum. Here's to the kids who are different. The kids with the mischievous streak. For when they have grown, as history has shown, it's their difference that makes them unique.
Fantastic.
Trevor Morris, you're fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on to the show.
It is an absolute pleasure to be here. And wanted to express my gratitude to you, Sven. I mean, you're part of this journey. That's why I credited you in the movie, and, great catharsis out of it. And thank you for all the kind words. And, I think we're finally at a place, hopefully, through your work and through critical mass and maybe the good part of the internet, that people don't feel so alone because they're different. They feel like, okay, maybe the island of misfit toys is where you want to be,
That's where the fun is, baby.
And it's the old saying is be yourself because everyone else is taken, man.
I love it. Thanks again, Trevor. On behalf of my team, KC, Rob the Rocket, thank you to Trevor Morris, and this is Trevor Morris's music, baby. Have a kick-ass day.
The Badass Counseling Show is strictly copyrighted. No copies may be made without the express written consent of the Badass Counseling Show, LLC. The Badass Counseling Show is produced by Karen Camparelli and Robert H. Friedman. Executive producer Sven Erlandson. Original music by two-time Emmy Award-winning composer Trevor Morris. Have a kick-ass day.